位学员大家好，那非常高兴就是2021年这一次的奥会的国际人才培训营，那又受到奥会的邀请，那来这边跟大家分享一下，就是有关于国际事务的人员在国际上要有一些的特质，以及包含一些我自己服务的单位的一些介绍。那今天我们就开始这个课程的部分。好，那在开始之前呢，我的习惯都是先跟学员讲说，我们今天课程大概会有哪一些部分。那从这个段落开始之后，那我就用英文的方式呢，跟所有的学员做带入。Okay, all right. So very good day. My name is Chen. I'm currently working for Chinese Taipei Football Associations as the chief of international match units. Today's agenda are the followings, and I hope that by the end of the course today that every one of you will have a glance of what Chinese Taipei Football Association does. In addition, that's under the current pandemic situation, what's the new normal we call it. In addition, to host an international match, what are the procedures that you need to follow through? And lastly, what's the persona and what's the ability one needs to possess in order to become a very, not successful, but at least that you are capable of interacting with international communities. So that will be the agenda of today, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so little thing about me. As you already know, my name is Chen. I've been called Chen by all my international friends since I have two Chens in my name. So once in the future that we can meet face to face, call me Chen will be fine, just fine. Okay, so currently, in addition to my domestic position in CTFA, I also served as a FIFA and AFC, which is Asian Football Confederation's match commissioner. And what match commissioner does is that I go to a country, I go to a host country or host member association. I oversee the organizations of a match from the arrival of the teams, the marketing, the broadcasting arrangements, logistic, hotel, visa, so on and so forth. Until the end of the match, I need to make sure that all the reports, data are correct and send it to respect associations and organizers to finalize such a match. So that's what a match commissioner does in a day. Okay. Additionally, I believe some of you know that around 4 years ago, the Taipei hosted University 8. I'm the football disciplines organizer's trainer. So I train, I would say about 60 to 70% of the football volunteers, giving them a glance of what football is to the world. And then in addition, I serve as a match commissioner during the tournament. And then third, myself, I started playing football, but I know that I'm not as good as all the national team players, so I become a referee. I'm hoping one day I'll be a World Cup referee. So right now I post CDFA 80 level, which is the highest level of domestic referee. I still ref from time to time, but right now I'm giving more chances to the younger generation and help them to grow and to cultivate them, so to protect them from stress situation. About my academic background, I graduated from FIFA Master, which is a master organized by FIFA in Europe. The program is very interesting. I really strongly suggest people who are interested in football or interested in European sports that participated in any particular time of your career. I spent around 11 months in Europe in multiple countries. It's a program that starts in England, which I studied history of sports, especially football, for about 2.5 months. Later on, I moved to Italy, so I lived in Milan for about 3 months, learning about the marketing part, the broadcasting part, the rights part, because Italy is such a big football country, especially in the 90s and early 2000s. So a lot of football ideas are from Italy. Later on, I moved to Switzerland, which is the location, the center of FIFA. Later, I spent 5 months studying, especially about laws, and then especially about contract laws. And so for a person like me that has no law background, I actually gain a lot from there. So nowadays, that although Taiwan has not very, let's say, very regulated football-related agents, but with the knowledge I have learned, that I believe it's helpful for the players in Taiwan, especially Taiwan players in overseas. When they have contract issue, they do share it with me, and I have the knowledge and connection. So that's my academic background on FIFA Master. I hope you Google it up and see if that's something that you're interested. My class, we have 32 people from 28 countries. So it's quite interesting. You learn different culture, different ideas of sports. That's really opened my mind. And I got a chance to visit a lot of places. Not only just FIFA, IOC, FISU, UCI. So if you like bike, a lot of associations, and a lot of let's say big football companies, Manchester City, AC Milan, those names, Juventus, those big clubs that you heard on the sports news. Okay. And lastly, about my experience of international matches, I have assistant host and oversee about more than 50 international matches in Taiwan, and oversee another about 40 matches. So in total, I hope that it's about 100 from country to country, from Maldives in the south to Uzbekistan in the north, to the west in Bahrain, and to the east in Guam. So Asia is such a big country, and then I'm very fortunate to go to most of them till today. Hopefully by the end of pandemic, I can travel more and to learn more cultural experience from all those people. That's a little thing about me. And now we'll go into, let's say, the parts that's very important for you today to know about football and to know about the pandemic today. Okay. So we'll start to introduce you what Chinese Taipei Football Association is, and then I hope some of you know what football is, especially for those who actually has American background. It's not your American football; it's the, let's say, world football, that soccer in American language. Okay, so Chinese Taipei Football Association, short for CTFA, is one of 47 members of AFC. Asian Football Confederation, and AFC is one of the 6 members of FIFA, Confederation members of FIFA. So that's the hierarchies of the pyramid. Okay, what we do is we promote, we broadcast, we train, we coach, we support football community in Taiwan. Okay, and our vision is to professionalize football. To make it attractive and to create a market value for sports lovers, and then in order to become a ecosystem. Okay, and there are 6 very different missions that we need to accomplish in order to achieve our vision. First of all, is we want to host more international matches to increase the awareness. One of the very particular things of sport lover in Taiwan is that when it comes to national teams, when it comes to the name of Chinese Taipei, that it attracts people. So we believe that by hosting more and more matches of football internationally, we can create more awareness, and then awareness brings market value. Second, we want to upgrade our domestic league. Leagues used to be played at Riverside or some places that nobody know how to access. But now we want to upgrade it to have a better facility that will attract more fans, and fans become football lovers, and to support their kids, and to support the market, and to support the ecosystem. That's the first 2. Third, we want to educate more personnel. Sports, not only football, but all sports need more than just athletes. You need coaches, you need organizers, you need doctors, physicians, athletic trainers, you need broadcaster, you need security, you need volunteers. Those people are part of ecosystem. And why are they important? let's just make a very simple example. If we have a broadcaster who broadcasts baseball the whole life, and you ask this person to broadcast football, it becomes very hard because baseball is very pitcher and catcher specific most of the time. But football moves 90 minutes. That differences create a specific professional difference. So people who broadcast baseball may not know how to broadcast a good football match. And what we want to do is we take chances, we work with universities. For example, like the broadcasting majors, ask them to broadcast some of our grassroots. Grassroots means kids matches, and tell them what are the difference between baseball and football and maybe other sports, swimming and other disciplines. So the third pillar of CDFA is to educate more professionals in football specific area. Fourth, we want to communicate and then create a contact, a very close contact with our local football associations. This has to do with the system of Taiwan's government structures. Every county has a sports association. Under sports association, you can find the sport of your love in their local association. So if you like basketball, you can find one county, that's a New Taipei City Basketball Association. So every county has its association. In this association, some of them are very active, some of them are not. But this association, they know the local knowledge, venues, people, referees, players, schools. What we want to do is we want to make a very tight, close connection with them in order to create support. Sometimes these people, let's say, for example, one county may want to host a football tournament, but they want to do it, they have the money, but they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the know-how. What we have in CDFA is the know-how of hosting competitions. So we will assist them and we will help them to edit the regulations. We will provide the referee list of surrounding counties, so they have enough referees. We'll tell them what you need to look after. You might need physicians. You may want not to play on the 12 o'clock in the noon, so the kids won't get heat exhaustion. Such knowledge are very important to be passed on to local football associations. So CDFA wants to use this channel to tighten up the association's connections. So that's our fourth pillar. Fifth is to build more infrastructures. What I mean by infrastructure is not only just football field, but football field with safety and security considerations. For example, we used to play in riverside parks, but the river has tides, so sometimes during the high tides, half of the football field will get flooded. That's one of the security concerns. Some of the area is close to highway, and if you kick really hard of the ball, it actually goes on to the bridge to the highway and to create some traffic issue. So that's not what we want to see. And thus, we work with government closely to see where are the better venues, better ground to build, or sometimes to keep, to maintain, that will create more grounds for the people, for the kids to play. And infrastructure is such an important issue that in 2018, we can see that from the World Cup, Iceland, such a small country, smaller, probably has the population of 1/10 of Taiwan, made to the World Cup stage. What they did is they built so many counties football field indoors, so they can play year round. As you know, the name Iceland, so they snow half of the year. So by studying Iceland's example, lots and lots of countries start to build artificial grass, start to build more infrastructure, and FIFA, AFC support this ideology. So do we, and then we are just working very closely. So more and more high schools, middle school now have an artificial grass football field. Last pillar, but not least, is to forming a professional league. As I mentioned, our vision is to professionalize football. One of the key points is professional, okay? Meaning that a professional player does not need to work another job to maintain his monthly salary. By definition, in FIFA, a professional football player is a person who makes enough monthly salary to support him or herself in a society. So let's say if in Taiwan our average salary is 30,000 NT per month, a professional football player needs to make at least 30,000 NT per month. That's by contract, and it's a 12-month contract, not 10, not 9-month contract. So we want to make sure that we professionalize the league, and the league has all professional players. We can take the example from baseball here on the Saint Island. Baseball players, why are there so many kids want to play baseball? Because at least they know that they have a chance to make a living. Football right now, not so much, and we want to make sure that the league we create has at least this element. It doesn't need to be 10 teams, 12 teams. Last teams, but more of essential players, and then they all make money, they all make a living. So those are the 6 pillars and the 6 missions we need to accomplish in order to achieve the vision. I want to remind all of you that a vision and the mission statements are very important for any associations, any companies. So in the future, if you have a chance to interview, if you have a chance to know whether this association, this sports or the company works for you, look into their vision and mission and see if you buy into their ideology. If you do, congratulations, you need to work harder to get this interview and get this job. If not, find out why. Not quit so fast, but find out why. Why do they have this strategy? It's very important for you, and then you should get to know it. So that's the vision and mission for CDFA. There are some examples I can share with you so that you can at least put the picture in your mind and to know what I mean by hosting more international matches, what I meant by elevating the domestic league constructions. For example, let's take a look at 2021. We know since 2019, 2020, it has been very difficult to host international matches. But with the calendars in hand, we still look into targets of what we want CDFA want to do. So in 2021, the second half of the year, we actually are going to host, bid for 3 international tournaments. As you can see on the slide, first one is a women's tournament. It's under 20. U20 means under 20 years old, so high school ladies. Tournaments in August. Then goes on to the Women's Asian Cup qualifier in September. It move on to under 23 Men's Asian Cup qualifier, which under 23 in football means the Olympic team. So for the next Olympic edition. These are the 3 major tournaments CDFA has bid on, and 2 of them has been awarded the host rights. The first 2 ladies tournament has been awarded. We're still waiting for the confirmation of the under 23 from AFC. Additionally, our men's national team has this we call a FIFA international match window. So in September, October, and November, we have 3 10 days window to play international matches. It's compulsory if we participate in such qualifier. So in the 3 months, we maybe see countries come to Taiwan, either in Taipei or Kaohsiung, to play the men's national team. All this back to reflect to the first pillar, to continue build more, to host more international matches, to create awareness. Okay? Next, domestic league. What we do domestic league-wise is, first of all, we implemented with the assistance of AFC called club licensing system. A club licensing system basically is kind of like your driver license. You want to drive a car, you need to go through a paper test and then a driving test and also a physical test in order to get a driver license. So a club licensing system in CDFA means that teams that participate in our leagues, especially the top men's and women's league, needs to go through the criteria. For example, I'll give you a men's club team they need to pass 6 big criteria with about 60 little items. And some of the items are very specific. For example, like the name of your coach, very simple. Some of them are very difficult. For example, a training program for your youth team. So you need to write out your philosophy, your coaching method, your coaching calendars, such and such, in order to pass that. What this system does is that it will help the team to understand that football club is not only 11 people on the field plus the 12 people on the technical area and a coach. It used to be like that. Group of people who play football together, form a team and just play in tournaments. But if we want to professionalize football clubs, they need to follow through all this. They need to do a legal entity application. They need to have their financial statements and their budgets of the year. They need to have their personal list. They need to have medical examinations. Some of them even ask for, if it's a company, what are your stakeholders and the percentage of the holders. So we get a better grip of the company, of the club. And this all added to what I say, to add market value to football. So domestic wise, one of the biggest things is that now club licensing for men's club is mandatory. If you want to play in our league, you have to do it. Second, what we did is we also added a manual for organizers. Remember I mentioned that the local associations that we want to build a tighten connection with them. What we did is we added a competition manual. In the manual, it has all the details of, for example, like how big a field needs to be, what's the size of a goal, how they draw the goal, what's the technical area size, such a very infrastructure, very fixed numbers. And we create this manual for all the associations and all the people who want to, let's say, create a tournament can reference to. That way that everybody in Taiwan play football has the same size of field. And by that, I mean that if we kind of synchronize all the needs of infrastructures, then we can have a better chance to have a synchronized national team. So we added this manual for the use of all football lovers on the island. Lastly, domestic, we broadcast all our matches, not just professional matches, not just our top league matches, but also our grassroots competitions. This April, we host this grassroots competition in Pingtung. It has more than 200 teams. So it's under 12. So you can see your elementary school students, elementary school teams, or club teams participate in this tournament. More than 3,800 people. That's just players and coaches. If you include the parents, it's about 9,000 people, all crowded, but very, very, let's say, follow through the guidelines of wearing masks, hand sanitizing during this pandemic in Pingtung. Go through around 10 days. I was there in 10 days. I was a different skin color than now. We broadcast the final, quarterfinal, and final matches. So parents, school classmates that in Taipei, let's say in Hualien, can watch their friends play on TV, on Alta, I would just say the broadcast name. And it was a whole day event on the Sunday. And what I learned from the broadcaster is that it actually created more, let's say, rating than some of the international, let's say, NBA League or MLB. Apparently, grassroots is such attractions for people on a Sunday than the professional league of a foreign country. So by broadcasting those, we know what the value can be of CTFA, of football in Taiwan. And by doing so, we know the backgrounds, statistics, so that add to the values, as I spoke earlier. Okay? As you can see in the following slides, it's just the numbers of what CTFA has in 2021. Taiwan is very fortunate that at the time in April, we still are able to host such a big tournament with more than 9,000 participants, 212 teams, almost 400 matches, quite a lot, and everybody had a lot of fun. I enjoyed Pingdong a lot, and that's one of the perks of doing sports, that you are not only working, but also watching something you love in your daily basis. But I do have to remind you, I work from 5 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, and that's 11 straight days. That's something you need to be aware in sport industry. It does come on and off when it comes to tournaments. All right. Now, that was the introduction for CDFA. We'll move on internationally. First of all, I want to kind of share with you what's the current situation right now internationally under the pandemic of COVID-19. You can see on the slides that I put 2 brochures, 2 manuals. One on the left is from FIFA of what they call Return to Football. On the right is a competition manual under COVID-19 by AFC. Since CDFA is under supervision of the 2 confederations and international federations, we abide to these 2 manuals. Combined, there are about 200 pages of English, so something about the ability of sports personnel need to possess, and which I will cover later on. Okay, so now I want to ask you to think about it. That what are the guideline, the principle, the changes this pandemic draw. Okay, what has changed in your daily life? You think about it, what has changed? Maybe you work from home, study, read from home. Maybe you have lesser chances to participate in social gathering. Maybe you have more guidelines and more restrictions in your life. If that's what's happening to you, that's what's happening to football, and that's what's happening to sports. What you can imagine is also what happened in my daily working life. Going abroad isn't easy anymore. Hosting international match can be complicated. Vaccine will be another issue. So I list about 6-7 different changes that under the pandemic what has happened. You can see that there are more cooperations needed cross associations, cross stakeholders, departments, governments. Before, when I need to host the international matches, medical and hygiene are one of the concerns, but not the major concern, not the priority, but now it has changed. There are more guidelines. Like I mentioned earlier, there are 2 new guidelines with 200 pages of English presented within a year. And those are the things I need to remember by heart. Thirdly, health, like I said, health issue is the priority. That's the risk that we cannot take. It's not about the money it generates, it's not about the broadcasting rating, it's not about the national pride. It's all about health first. The fourth, there are new rules created. You may think that in sports, doctors count after injuries, but now doctors with public hygiene specific knowledge people have a seat in a very high table. Those people, what they said would affect the chance of hosting an international match or not. So if you are interested in sport, but you're not major in sport, but you're major in others, you do have a chance to be related to sports. It's not a 1-0 win or lose toss. You can be related. Fifth is there are centralized match instead of a round of robin, what in football we call it. It's not home and away anymore. Everybody comes to one country which is safer and which has more, let's say, protections, and then every country goes there. So as of now, today on June 9th, the national team of CDFA is in Kuwait, along with Australia, Nepal, and then Jordan. We're playing the World Cup qualifier. So centralized match, which was a trend in early 2000s and 90s, has been brought back in 2020 because of the pandemic. Lastly, the restrict fan access. If you watch any sports, I say NBA, Major League Baseball last year, even the World Cup qualifier this year, you can see not a full stadium anymore. People has to have at least 1 meter or 1.5 meters distance in between to enjoy sports. It was a social gathering, but now not so much. We hope one day soon that will come back to the normal, because athletes do need the fans, and then fans are very important elements of a sport. Those are the things that changed internationally when hosting a international match these days. Two of the charts I will show you today is the procedure we need to go through. The first one you see on this page is a risk assessment form. This is produced by Fifa with WHO on February 1st, 2021. They co-signed this return to football risk assessment formula. It's an Excel file. Everybody can download it from WHO. What it does is it has 42 questions asking the host to answer whether you have a mitigation to deal with the situation or not, or in progress. By filling out the form, it will generate a risk score of your wanted host tournament. And then so you can see that from the top left, it's in green, low to no risk, to the bottom right, it's a very high risk, and by color. It will tell confederations that whether this country, this member association is probable to host such event or not. And trust me, the 42 questions not only filled by, let's say, me, but also by government stakeholders, professionals, experts, and then we all come together with these ideas of whether we are ready or not, and then we present this to, let's say, AFC. They will send another, not person because the pandemic, but send another questionnaires to further explain whether our solution to a situation. Okay. So this is one of the example that it wasn't there 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, but now it is, and it's a must nowadays. That was before matches, and now the next slide you can see is during the matches, what we call the control access board. Before, on the left-hand side, you can see from zone 1 to zone 9, it has different zones which will wear a badge during match day, and will show that which zone you can access. But now, with the pandemic, it shrank down to 4 and limited, excluded 2 zones, like no fans, no food, and then players' access, broadcaster access has been decreased in order to, like I said, to prioritize health as the top priority for the whole tournament. So this access board shows the progress of before and after. And then like this summer, we have a Euro coming up, the European National Championship coming up. They do utilize the similar criteria for the whole stadium. So these are the 2 things that, just some example for you to visualize what's the current situation. And I believe that Olympic in Japan has a similar things and has a similar access granted or denied device. The next one we see is some technology helping to cope with the pandemic. First of all, we used to have manager meetings face-to-face. I can see all the team managers, and then we can discuss and say hello, shake hands, exchange ideas. But now it's all online. So you can see that this was an example of the national team managers in Kuwait. That's more than 20 people are joined, and then everybody's online. So technology do help, and so learning, be familiarized with technology is essential for personnel nowadays in sports, not just a team manager, but also players, because you might need to discuss strategy online, such that you cannot live without, basically. On the bottom right, you can see a press conference that's been conducted online. So it's the head coach of our national team, but all the press that wants to attend needs to log on to the Zoom or the Google Meeting platform and to ask questions. So it creates a little bit distance, but again, safety. Additionally, the next following slide are some examples on in the stadiums. You can see from measuring temperatures of players upon arrival to segregate the seats. So every 2 seats is a cross, but every 1 seat is a green, and then that for players and also for fans. In addition, that on top right-hand side, ball boys, every time they get a ball, they have a sanitizer of alcohol swab. They just spread on balls when exchanging balls for the players. And on the bottom right, you can see that before, every players line up together to take this team photo, but not anymore, although it's a contact sports, but less contact, the better nowadays for football. All right, so that was the wrap for international match under pandemic. I hope that's very clear for you. Next, we'll move on to what's the timeline and what's the elements of hosting international matches. But this time, I want you to pause for a 3 minutes time to think. Use your imagination to think about what do you need to host a sport of your love. Not need to be football. If you love cycling, if you love swimming, that's fine. What's the timeline? What are the stakeholders you need to contact from a chronology, from a timeline perspective? You need to get in touch. Think about it. Draw a line. Post a video. Okay, now we're back. I hope you do have this timeline now. And then so for the following few slides, we'll talk about it, and then I hope that will give you insight in the future if you need to help any county or any association that to host an international match. It will come very handy for you. But before, let's use photos to let you know what are the things that to me is very important. So from this slide, you can see, first of all, you need to know what is important for your association. Remember the first slide we talked about the strategy, the vision. You need to know what is the vision of your association. What is important tournament for you? If you want to increase the participations of youth, you might want to target a youth tournament. If you want to create awareness, you can kind of like us, we do national team tournament. Those are all options, but you need to know what your target is. After that, you know your target, you need to contact your international federation to know the criteria. So on the top left-hand side is the under 23, which I mentioned earlier. The criteria are in it. It tells me that the application deadline, what our document need to be sent, what are the logistics need to be prepared in order to apply for this, and very importantly, what signatures I need to get. If it's the mayor of a city, or even is let's say chair of a committee of the government, it tells you every detail. So the criteria is very important. That's to foreign countries. Then we look into our domestically. When you host an international tournament, what are the agency, what are the association you need to look help from? Okay, so for us is the educational department, and under that is the sports administration. So I need to write out the official letters and indicate the time, everything, and very importantly, how much will it cost, and when will it be host, and very detailedly to the sports administration. And in between the coming back and forth of the official letters, everybody get a grasp of what this tournament would look like. So that's the before tournament. What about during the tournament? What do you need to be prepared for them? You can think of hotels. You can think of food. What about visas? some countries are very difficult to get visa to enter Taiwan, and some countries are very different from others. For example, North Korea, have you ever think about it? Iran, Pakistan, those are the countries that may pose difficulty for you to apply visas for them. And all this you need to put into consideration when you want to bid for international tournaments. That's before they arrive, but still concerning logistic. What about upon arrival? Transportations. Sometimes when I mentioned food earlier, some Islamic countries, they don't eat pork. If you host that during April or May, they have this different dieting hours. That will affect your logistic as well. In some countries, from my experiences, they have laundries matters. They have a lot of requests. All in all, very detailed. In addition, what about your people? In the stadium, security, with the team liaison officer. Liaison is the kind of like a translator for the team. And then also the broadcasting, ticketing, media rights. If you want to host a marketing event, which agency you need to contact. All those, even balls. If you're hosting your own tournaments, you can do different balls. So all these are rights, and it has to concern with legal. And then so you need to know what you can do and what you cannot do, and you need to sign lots and lots of contracts. And lastly is very important nowadays is how about your quarantine procedure? How about your hygienes? Do you have enough hand sanitizer? What kind of face mask like I'm wearing right now? What is allowed, what is not allowed? All this are very details, but details do show whether you are prepared or not to host an international tournament. So let's have a look of the list I can prepare for you. I hope it matches your timeline. And then so from up to bottom, you can see that from basically find your target tournament to the very last part that your medical, your security, even your volunteer, the training of them, all and all should be on your list. If it's not, think of why. There's no right or wrong of this activity, but why you forget this aspect. Is it because of your experience, or is it because that you never thought of it? And what I want you to learn from this part is that if you got everything, even if you got more than I do, I want you to share anyway with me. If not, I hope this help you to be a very good organizer in the near future. And that's the part about organizing an international match under the situation. Now we move to the last part of our my presentation. It's about you, okay? It's about you. So again, we pause 3 minutes, and my question to you is, in your opinion, what are the characteristics and persona international sports organizers need to have, in your opinion? So from what you see, from what you heard, from what you experienced. Take time, and we'll discuss this. Okay, I hope you write down at least 3 to 5 or even more, which that's fine. And again, I like to use graphs, pictures, to show you from my past experience, from the people I met, what are the characters they have. And then I want to share that with you and ask you the very important question at the very end. Okay, so let's move on. The first slide you can see from here, there are 3 pictures of me, very silly pictures. And so I will discuss with you the first one on the very right. You can see me in the costumes of our little bird of CTFA. That's what I did at one point of the time when there is no enough volunteers, and then I had the time to do this, and because I am the right size for the costume, so I jump in. And my friends is in the back and just making fun of me, an AFC match commissioner doing this. But that's part of the job. So the willingness to get down and get your hand dirty, to do any kind of work will make the tournament perfect. So one of the things I want to show you with a picture. In the middle, you can see me with my laptop typing out. That was in Guam. Very beautiful places. I was there with national team. I was a media officer, so which means I need to write a news release. I need to take pictures. Before that, I have never done it. I had 2 days of training with 3 sports reporters. I follow them everywhere, see and read what they write, how to take pictures, and boom, I'm with the team to Guam. And so that was in 2016 summer, national team competitions in Guam. And I believe I took more than 1,000 pictures. I wrote 14 reports. Some of them are published, although without my name, but I enjoyed it, especially the very last few reports I wrote. Not a single word has been changed by the reporters. They are happy with that. I was happy with the experience I had. So from that on, if there is a need to write a news release by CDFA nowadays, I'm more than willing, and I still love to chat with the players and with the coaches to know their perspective about football. And on the very left, you can see that it's me as a referee assessor. A referee assessor means that I teach younger referees what I see in their matches, and then what laws needs to be applied. That's on the field side. So me with a laptop again, but with telling them that you can do better, and then try to protect them from setbacks psychologically. Okay, because football is very contact sports, and coaches and players can get very heated. So psychological help would benefit this young referee. Sometimes they're only 19, 20 years old, and setbacks are the major challenges for CDFA to recruit referees. So as you can see that, although today my major work is to organize tournaments, but all those things I did before help me to know the persons around me in the international sports, what they do, what they need, and the chances that show up from time to time is a willingness to take challenges, to accept and learn what you don't have. And I hope that one of the things on your list is willingness to multitask and to try. Even it's the sports that you have no idea with. My experience tells me that I have assignments 2 years back in 2018 is beach soccer tournament, Asian Cup in Thailand. I have zero knowledge of beach soccer. I know it's kind of like football, 2 goals, 1 ball, the ball goes in 1 goal, but I don't know the rules. I have zero knowledge, but I'm willing to take that challenge, accept the assignments. I traveled to Thailand for 20 days. I learned everything about beach soccer, and I even played in one of the little kind of competition with the locals. It's fun, and then now I have knowledge of beach soccer. So I hope one day we can host beach soccer tournament in Taiwan. It's such a fun sport. And move on to the next one. That was all the elements I possess. But now is the next 2 pictures you see that is something very, let's say, particular. One of the things on top left is communication. Okay. Organizing a tournament is always about communicating, and with different people, with different cultural background, communication can be very, very interesting. Not difficult, interesting. How so? You can see from a picture, I was in Bangladesh, Mongjala, Bangladesh. I need to communicate with locals. It was raining hard, and there was lightning, thunder, and by protocols, I need to pause the matches because there is a risk of life or death. But the referee told me that they play in these weathers no matter what. It's a different country. It's a different cultural background. So I need to communicate with them using what they see and what they don't see. I cannot just say, hey, I'm the match commissioner, so listen to me. It doesn't work that way. So there are rules and there are communications. When it comes to conflicts, you need to ask, how can you be the mediator of the two to solve the problem? Using the rule is personally my last options. And using my rule of match commissioners is my least favorite option. I always try to prevent all the situation, to communicate with them earlier, to ask them to commit, to see everything the same way. So when it happens, then we're all good. So what I did is, before I went to Bangladesh, I look at the weather reports, the season, what happened the most is thunderstorm. So before the tournament even started, me and my colleague, we talked to the local referees, organizers, saying that if there is a thunderstorm, if we can hear it, then we pause the matches. Everybody agreed, it was recorded, so when there's a thunderstorm, what I did is I wear raincoats, I go up, I talk to the referee, hey, we talk about this, they agree, so everything was safe. So prevention and communication in this situation, okay? And on the right-hand side is work very close. It was a futsal tournament, a 5-on-5 indoor futsal tournament in Thailand. And what happened was that the referees that left actually from China, and then so I was assigned to them because they don't speak anything of English. So a language skill can be advantage. If you pay attention to my slide earlier, I speak Mandarin and English, but I do also speak Italian. I picked up Italian when I was in Italy. I love Italian food, so that's how I pick out another language. Choose another language other than English and Chinese. Some of you probably speak Japanese, Korean, Cantonese. Choose a language of your favorite food, of your favorite team, anything. That will help you to learn the language faster. If you like French food, learn French. If you like German beer, learn German. If you like Vietnamese food, learn Vietnamese. So that's how I did. And then communication, like earlier, now communication was an important part because I can talk in Chinese with the referee, tell them what to watch out for. So I hope language is on your list. Okay. So now we move on to the list I provided you. I hope some of the elements on top is also on yours. And I want to mention, ability is something you have, but doesn't necessarily make you a very good organizer. To me, a very good organizer has compassion. A compassion to know that everybody is very stressful, and then everybody's time is very precious. And what you do is, how can you help them? So during the tournaments, if there is somebody who's very stressful, and I can sense that what I do right nowadays, this is what I learned. I ask them, how can I help them? Instead of telling what's wrong, or telling, hey, do this or do that. I say, how can I help them? Because the higher the rules you become, the more power you have, but with different method, you can actually achieve more by helping people instead of commanding people. So what I learned is that you can say that you can fight this stress very well. You can multitask, but put yourself in a very high stress situation. Can you still see a person who is very confused or very upset and ask them that, how can I help you? Compassion, I think that's something that very important nowadays. And with that, I conclude my presentation for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and you can find me through a lot of channels in CDFA, and hope one day we can work together and I can bring you some experience and can bring you some insights from very young generations. Okay? All right. Be safe. Bye.